Alright, it's Sunday and me and Fen here are out checking fields in Spring Point, Alberta. Beautiful, nice hillsides today. And as you can see, we got some wicked thunderstorms developing up here just to the north. So this is probably Claire's home-ish area we're seeing there. So I'm assuming there might be some big hailstorms coming through shortly. Okay, I'm up here west of Barron's along the 520, and you can see we've had some pretty serious hail here in this dryland durum field. Probably 75 to 80% of these heads are chopped off, so that's no good. We will definitely have to have hail insurance come out and do an assessment on this field. So it must have hailed here pretty hard on, I'm guessing, Saturday or Sunday. Looking at some dryland canola out west of Barron's today, and here's some Pioneer M35, which is looking really nice for a dryland canola. And right beside it, seeded on the same day, we have some DeKalb 7565, and that's already had to be sprayed because of bugs. So far the Pioneer hasn't, but it's actually looking very nice in comparison. But as typical for DeKalb, sometimes it looks like crap this time of the year, but it'll surprise you when you harvest it. In a field west of Barron's right now, and looking at some kochia. This was a field we had problems with after pre-burn. The kochia just didn't seem to die, so we hit it a second time with a heavy rate of glyphosate plus Banville and 2,4-D. And this particular patch, we were just testing glyphosate resistance, and you can see we've killed a couple of these larger kochia. So this was last applied 2 weeks ago, but some of them are perfectly fine. So we definitely do seem to have a little bit of glyphosate resistance out here. And you can actually see trails of it in the drone footage. Checking out the dryland peas by Nobleford today, and they're pretty much finished flowering now. And we got a pretty good pod set on here, and most of the pods are 6 to 7 peas per pod. You can see the odd little white spot here and there from a little bit of hail over the weekend, but overall I don't think it's enough to cause any problems. So now we just have to wait for harvest. Okay, I'm in some corn that looks like it got a little bit of hail and wind damage here over the weekend. I don't see too much bruising, but there is some split and shredded leaves, so it'll take the corn a couple days probably to recover from that. But it will recover with pretty minimal yield loss. It'll probably just slow it down really for a couple days, but it'll get going again here right away. Here goes Steve taking care of all my bugs in the canola. Here I got two different types of soybeans that are planted side by side. On the left here we have Pioneer hybrid variety, and on the right we have the Syngenta M2. You can see the Syngenta variety, while it does still look good, there is a little bit of damage from insects here that have been since sprayed. Leaves are a little bit narrower versus the Pioneer hybrid variety, so these will probably be quite different looking plants once they get going. So we'll keep an eye on these, see how they compare. Here's how the mustard's looking this week. It's coming along absolutely beautiful. We're in full flower now. There's a few lygus bugs in here, but not very much. And it's setting pods really well. So have high hopes for this. It's looking pretty good. Checking some flax today, and we're starting to flower pretty good in here, but we're not quite at full bloom yet. We got a couple early openers. There's a couple that are already sitting bowls, but for the most part, where it's all still buds. But should be a couple more days and this will start to look really nice and blue.
Hi there, my name is Graham Collier. I'm the Technical Services Manager with New Farm Agriculture for Western Canada. And we're out here at our demonstration site today in southern Alberta, and just wanted to run through with you some of the results of the most recent Alberta Weed Resistance Survey. So kochia is obviously one of our most concerning weeds. Essentially we make the assumption now that 100% of our kochia populations have group 2 resistance. The most recent weed survey that came out was done in 2017, and our results came out just here in January of 2019. So the 100% group 2 resistance, not too much of a surprise. Glyphosate resistance has increased, so 50% of the kochia populations that were sampled had glyphosate resistance. So that's gone up, but probably the most concerning one is group 4 resistance. So we had 18% of the populations that were surveyed had group 4 resistance. So essentially 1 in every 5 fields had a group 4 resistant population. And that resistance wasn't necessarily to just one active ingredient with group 4. There was some dicamba resistance, there was some fluroxypyr resistance, there was some 2,4-D resistance as well. So it's a fairly broad resistance with multiple evolutions of resistance within those kochia populations. Probably the more concerning issue is that we saw quite a bit of stacked resistance. So kochia populations that had resistance to group 2, group 4, and group 9, those were found in 10% of the populations that were surveyed. So 1 in every 10 fields in southern Alberta potentially has three-way stacked resistance, which going forward, kochia is already a difficult weed to manage, and it's the driver behind a lot of management decisions on the farm. So managing a three-way stacked resistance will become even more important as we move forward.
All right, thank you very much. Dryland peas down by McGrath are looking fantastic. They're over a knee tall now, which is really something for this year. These just got sprayed with a fungicide last week, and I just can't get over how much of a huge difference this is compared to weeks ago when this was suffering from, viper problems, and it was severely stunted and yellowed, and now that it's had a couple shots of moisture, it's just come right out of it, and it's just cruising along like crazy. Here's the state of my winter wheat trial field right now. This is one of the worst looking areas, and you can see the heads are pretty much, they're filled. They're in dough stage here. They're probably not going to be terribly plump, but they are filled, and we've lost even the flag leaves now. They're pretty much burned off. There's been a few showers here, but it just hasn't been able to catch up, and the ground is just hard like a brick and super dry. There ain't nothing here. So I don't know, we're probably not going to see any, there is no visual difference across the plots in the field. We just ran out of moisture, so there's just no way we can really compare anything anymore. Maybe we'll see some combine data that'll show differently, but at this point I'm hesitant to say that we'll see anything. Out in the corn by Lethbridge today, it's doing great. This is the Pioneer Hybrid stuff. It's up to my waist now, which is pretty good. And seeing a couple cases of yellow top here. Yellow top, you see these like kind of bleached yellow leaves. That's just from when we've had overcast, cool weather for a couple days. Plant stores up energy, and then as soon as you get a nice hot day, you get really good growth conditions. It just shoots out those new leaves super fast, and it just can't produce enough chlorophyll to fill them. And in a day or two of good weather, those will green right up and you won't even see them. Here's the state of the corn this week. It's growing pretty rapidly. We're barely in node elongation last week. Now we got one node there, 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 and then there's kind of a stack of them here. And then right there is the tassel here. So things are definitely coming along. The tassel has probably grown, several 100% in the last week, so it's really coming along quick. Here's the irrigated barley by Lethbridge this week. Everything's coming along pretty nice here. These heads are finished flowering, they're just starting to fill. And everything's going really good, except for these spots where somebody forgot to put seed down, but that's Cody for you. Okay, what did the sprinklers do?
The sprinklers fall down on the flowers.
Yeah, and then what did the flowers do?
The flower did up and they fell my flowers in the path.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's keep going, okay? No more pizzas.
Okay. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.